The Think and Tackle podcast.
It was Bush, wasn't it? Yeah. I remember him handling it badly. That's a general consensus of opinion.
Yeah.
With not a lot of empathy and but I thought he was like that anyway.
He was frightened. We're just going live now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. He'd only been in the job a few months, hadn't he? And to get thrown into that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a fan of politics anyway. I don't follow it. But I just remember him being very disconnected from the average guy in the street in America. Very, very disconnected.
Do you think he was just totally shocked?
Well, probably the whole world was, weren't they? So,
I mean, he was just, but he knows that the whole world's looking at him as well.
Yeah, I mean,
he's expected to react to that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I'd want that job. No chance. I wouldn't want any of those jobs in politics. But yeah, he just it never struck me as somebody who was a man of the people. It seemed like he was in it for himself.
Yeah. Not getting too political, but looking at some of the presidents since, So we're this is the first podcast that we're going to do, Danny.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure. I walked about 10 yards from where I was sitting.
Yeah, excellent. I know, it's convenient, isn't it?
It is convenient, yeah.
So we've sort of, I wouldn't say we've hashed it together because we've been rehearsing and messing around for the last 3 months with it.
Yeah.
But you sort of put us a little bit on the spot today, didn't you?
Yeah, well, we were talking about when are we going to do it, what dates are available, and with everybody being so busy, I knew it was going to be difficult to put everybody together at the same time. So I just said, let's do it today. So here we are.
Here we are. So do you know what to expect from our podcasts?
A little bit. Obviously, we've talked in the office. We've talked about it because I've got a keen interest in anything that we do in the media and how we project ourselves. And I enjoy podcasts, not just fishing ones, but generally. Listen to them a fair bit when I'm driving. So I wouldn't say I know exactly what to expect, but certainly I feel comfortable with the whole setup and the opportunity to just chat, which you don't get.
It's a different sort of media platform, isn't it?
100%, and it's one that I've really been looking forward to because the rest of my life in the public eye is to the millisecond. You're trying to say everything in the least number of words possible to get your point across as quickly as possible, to make what you're making as watchable as possible. And with this, we've got the luxury of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people have said to us as well, I spoke to a guy, a potential guest on the show last week, and he was really worried about, I can't talk for an hour. And
Right.
I was on the phone to him for well over an hour, and I said, look, we've just done a podcast.
Yeah.
But I know, because you sort of got into it a little bit a few years ago, didn't you, podcasting?
Yeah, well, as a company, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we tried, and Ollie Bowles, who worked for us at the time, had the very good idea of getting people on the bank in a very relaxed environment and just talking carp and just not worrying about what tangents they went off at and what subjects they covered, and it didn't have to be very how-to, and it could be more about the person and their thought process, which I thought was a brilliant idea. And I listened to a few of the ones that we did at the time, and whilst it's difficult for me because I know all the people that are doing them, so I can ring them up and ask them about their approach to a certain lake and what they caught and everything else. So I'm in a very privileged position. It's very difficult.
You've got to take yourself out of being a friend, haven't you?
That's very difficult.
And being a listener.
That is very difficult to do that, to take yourself out of that bubble that you live in and work in, and look at it through somebody else's eyes. But I mean, the reason they never went to air is I think we collectively felt they needed more direction, more intention, a more solid subject matter, and whilst they were a nice thing to listen to, did they actually catch anybody any more fish? Was it just a passing of time? was it a little bit too carpy?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would the average guy even know what these people were talking about?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be one of your biggest challenges. I think is getting people to open up and give great information, but at the same time be entertaining. Hear a bit more about them personally. It's like on the bank. It's like you've been around angling, carp angling for a long time, and when we sit there and waffle on for hours and don't really say anything, do we?
No.
And
Exactly.
you think back at the end of it, what were we actually talking about?
Yeah.
And it's waffle a lot of the time, and that's they were recorded in that same style, which is what Ollie wanted to do, and fair play to him, he achieved that. But yeah, we just it didn't feel like the finished article.
Yeah, that's right. And you think carp anglers are quite well set up to do something like this, really, aren't we? Because we're sat around but you have there needs to be an element of control to a podcast as well. I mean, you need to be mindful of what people really want to hear as well. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I've listened to quite a few in the carp angling world, and some of them, are really engaging and inspiring. I've listened to some on the way back from fishing when I've blanked. I thought, I want to go again. I'm ready to go again now, just by listening. It was actually Gaz Fareham being interviewed by Jamie Klossick and talking about Cote Water Park, and he just explained it so beautifully. How he actually caught less when he was doing the nights on Cote rather than days only, because he wasn't putting as much effort in, and he wasn't getting up at first light every morning and looking for fish, and he wasn't baiting 3 spots before he went and slept in his van, and then getting up in the morning and viewing them all and then getting on the fish. He was doing overnighters, and he wasn't getting up as early because the rods were already out and all that. And I can relate to that. And Gaz is a very good storyteller and very descriptive, and that made me want to go back and go fishing again. Talk, and not because he'd given me anything that I didn't already know, but he painted a picture of a thought process and a commitment to getting a bite
that we can relate to as well.
I could really relate to, and that, and other ones I've listened to, and I don't know whether the people, they don't get to the point quick enough, or they're not the greatest storyteller or whatever, but they've just lost me,
right?
And I've not, in spite of the fact that they've caught some really nice fish, it's maybe I don't know, maybe the motivation is different.
It's the passion as well, isn't it? You've got to be able to talk with a bit of passion. We know with Terry Hearn and people, like they can tell a story so well, can't they?
I'm not saying the people that I've switched off from are not passionate and are not committed to getting the bites because they're cool. But if you've got that personality where you can communicate it, then people warm to you. It doesn't. It's no reflection upon these guys' angling ability at all. Quite the opposite. But it's just some people can tell a story and can engage. Yeah. And perhaps other people can't.
Well, I think this is what we've got. This is the issue with this as well, because when we decided, when Tom and Damo were talking about doing this, I was like, well, can we put cameras on and can we do it properly in a studio? But you have to assume as well that not all carp anglers are necessarily going to be comfortable sat in this type of environment and being able to come across,
if you haven't done it before, I would imagine with the lights and
it's not too intimidating though, is it, Dan? We've got to sell this to everybody.
You're talking to me now. This is just a walk in the park by comparison to telly, and having to catch one on demand. Yeah. This is lovely. Yeah, it's a little bit unnerving, not unnerving, but a little bit alien, having headphones on, talking into a mic, in the sort of makeshift studio.
But once we've done this for people engage quite quickly. Actually,
yeah,
we've brought people from the company and all sorts of different people, and once we get chatting for 5 minutes, they completely switch off, and we're just talking.
Human beings love to chat, don't they?
Yeah.
And carp anglers love to chat.
They do.
Like with the best of them. So yeah, I would again. I think it's one of the things that I'm sure you'll hone your skills when you're interviewing people or chatting with people. you know, to make them more and more at ease all the way through, and the real them will come out sooner. But because I've done hours and hours and hours in front of cameras, it's not that I'm like superhuman or anything like that.
You're just
about
used to it.
I'm used to it, and I get less and less nervous nowadays. I used to be really nervous. I would avoid starting a day's filming, you know, as long as I possibly could, unless I caught one. When I caught one, you can't shut me up then, you know. But you know, when you're everything's getting prepared, you know, the first films I did with Frank Warwick and that, you know, I was proper bricking it at the start of the day, and then you get into your rhythm, and then it sort of comes, you know. But I suppose it's the people that get nervous but do it anyway. They're the ones that end up.
It's fight or flight, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got. I think you've got to put. I like putting myself in positions where I do feel uncomfortable. You know, I've had to. You know, I got up and sang last year in front of 100 people. I wouldn't say I'm a particularly great singer. I like climbing mountains. I like putting myself in awkward positions, because you need to feel a bit of stress. You need to know what stress feels like to be able to become stronger, don't you?
You can't have a very stressful life then if you're forcing it upon yourself.
Yeah, right.
It's running all of this forces it upon me on a daily basis, so I don't feel the need to put myself in a situation where I feel uncomfortable. That just happens on a daily basis. So
I'm not quite in that position yet.
Yeah.
But we're saying as well, because we're talking about changing. So the podcast is very non-marketing. I think people that are listening to this, you know, there's always a little bit of Korda doing something. What are they trying to? But we genuinely just want to put a podcast out which has got good content that hopefully people are listening to, and they're not being sold anything. We just, at the moment, we've put these boards up around, but we've hashed this together, but last minute.
I think we should say one of the boards is up because there's a massive rip in the plaster behind that board.
Yeah.
and that's all we had sitting around. I mean, I'd like to see some nice photographs in the background. You know.
Well, you said some stuff earlier which we'd like to put you know, junior anglers and just
competition winners from the Embryo calendar. You know, they're beautiful images anyway. They're inspiring images anyway. So if you're going to set the scene, you know, a few catch pics maybe, that sort of thing up. But I guess most people are going to listen to this rather than watch it. I mean, I don't know what the comparable figures are between what you know, podcasts on YouTube and podcasts just on your phone. You know, when you're driving, I don't know if a lot more people listen than watch. But you guys wanted it to do it this way, so we've done it this way.
Do you know what I watched? Did you listen to Joe Rogan?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
I was listening to one of his podcasts and he was talking to Alex Jones. Alex Jones is a controversial guy. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No,
he's a conspiracy guy.
Right.
And he's very, very outspoken.
Yeah.
And if you listen to him, I mean, you can just get turned off very quickly. He's been very, very controversial. And the two of them actually fell out with each other. And they've been good friends for like 20 odd years. And then Joe Rogan wanted to make up with him and said, right, come on the show and we'll make up on the show.
Did they fall out on the show?
No, it was over Sandy Hook, the shooting, Sandy Hook shooting. Oh, anyway, that was a whole different thing. Right. But he invited him onto the show, and I listened to that for the first 20 minutes, and I thought, I can't listen to this any longer. Then I switched to watching it on YouTube, and there was something in watching that guy. You could see the friendship, you could see the rapport between them, and I wouldn't justify what the guy says. But I ended up watching it for 4.5 hours after that because I just came round to that, and I thought that's it. It's the power of being able to watch, you know, watch something. And I know as a therapist, I trained as a therapist, and I know speech is 30% of all communication. So, you know, when you're watching stuff, it's quite powerful as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully, you know, people will choose to listen and watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whatever floats your boat. Obviously, you can't watch it when you're driving, and I know a lot of carp anglers listen to podcasts when they're driving. You know, a lot of us do a lot of miles to get to the lakes that we want to fish. I know I do, and the way the motorways are nowadays, you know, my journey home can be at some places 2.5 hours, other times 5 hours to get home. You know, and although I love electronic music and that is what I listen to most of the time, in the end, I want a bit of a break from it, and that's when the podcasts come on. So, as long as the more people it appeals to, the better. And yeah, I hope that it's an opportunity for all of us to give a little bit more of us rather than 7 turns of that through there. That needs to come off the hook at that point, and the bits I've done over and over and over and over, which have obviously got their place and have made a difference to a lot of people. But when you've done that a lot, it's nice to have the opportunity to do something a bit more in depth.
Yeah. So I think what I'd like to ask you, because we don't really know each other that well, do we? We've passed each other a few times. I've been here for a year now.
Yeah.
Is Danny Fairbrass? Who is Danny Fairbrass? And are you a very motivated person? I mean, if you didn't set this company up, do you think you would have done something else?
Yeah, I'd have 20 clubs spread all around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and probably be in a much better financial position than I am now,
Right.
But no, I was highly motivated always. I always wanted to make the best of myself. When I worked for NatWest when I was a kid, I was on a management development program, so I was going through the grades really quickly, to get to a management position at a young age. Obviously, starting Korda sort of got completely in the way of that, and I didn't see a future for myself in the bank because it was very regimented on how you progressed and what jobs you did and what you didn't do, and that just didn't sit well with me. They're forcing people to sit in front of customers and try and sell things and be charismatic and offer a good service. That people that were petrified of it, and then they'd force people like me out into the back office, keying in standing order mandates all day, when I just found it mind-numbingly boring, and I wanted to be out opening accounts for people and just chatting, and that was my.
So you're not really a natural
position.
salesman. You use your personality more rather than putting it on people. Just be yourself.
Yeah, I don't think I was very, very motivated to sell the leads when I first started because I wanted to be wealthy. I wanted to be successful, and whilst I wouldn't say I had the gift of the gab or anything. A lot of Essex people do. And we're good talkers generally. But I was so hell bent on being successful that all my concerns about what people thought of me went out the window in order to be successful. So I wouldn't say I was a natural salesman, or I am a natural salesman. But what I've always done is try to explain to people how that product is going to serve them, and how it's going to either sell loads through the shop, put more money in the till of the shop, which is what their primary concern is, or for the angler, how it's going to improve their fishing and catching more fish, because that's what I want people to catch as many fish as humanly possible in the time they've got available. So if a product can do that better for them, that's how I explain it, and whether they choose to buy it or not is another is up to them. I'm not one of these. I haven't got a patter, and I'm very good at closing the sale down and making the sale. I'm not that sort of person. I'm not sort of built that way, but I am built in the I want to help you.
Yeah. Were your parents like that as well?
My dad was a very motivated sort of. He was a hard worker, really, really hard worker, and had his own car repair shop when I was a kid. Would work morning till night, come home, throw some food down his throat, and go back to work again, covered in dust where we've been rubbing cars down and respraying them, and just work till midnight, and then come home, get up 7 o'clock next morning, and do it all again. And he did that continuously for all my sort of younger years. So that definitely rubbed off on me, no doubt about it. That work ethic, and he really drummed it into me. Don't buy anything unless you've saved up your own money. Don't get loans. Don't borrow money off your friends. Don't go to the bank. Save up your money. When you've got it, then buy it. And I remember I bought, when the Shimano Aero GTs came out, the 4500 GTs, I bought them on credit with Penge Angling in Rayleigh, and they stayed in the boxes until I paid for them. So I bought them on like 12 months credit or whatever, and I didn't use them for 12 months. They
Right.
just sat in the boxes, and I carried on using my card in the 155s until I'd paid the last payment.
Really?
And then I went over to the little Grange, put line on them, went over to the little Grange and like flicked it the distance I was absolutely beasting it to get to with the Cardinals. I was like, you div. You know, why have you waited 12 months or whatever it was to use these reels? They're so much better than what you had before. But it was drummed into me, and I've never changed that attitude since. And I think it stood us in really good stead.
Mm. So Korda Lake, were you fishing Korda Lake at the time when you came up with the?
I wasn't fishing it. No, I was. We were looking round it. Me and a guy called Scott that I knew from the Little Grange, which is where we were fishing at the time. We were going to go into partnership together. We were going to make luggage, so we were going to do. Back in the day, then it was like whatever it was, 91, 92, when we first started talking about it. It was when people were taking car batteries with them fishing. You know, there was no these little tiny chargers and that sort of thing that you've got nowadays. You know, and we were going to make bespoke luggage and the special rucksacks and all that sort of thing. And we were going to tent makers in the East End of London, these Indian guys, and it's like we were so far away from getting it right. I just, you know, I can't really put it into words. And but we were at Korda Lake looking round it with the view to fishing it the coming season when we decided we would go into partnership together. And we went and sat in the horse and barge, which I'm sure you must know well, being a Savay angler. And we sat in the little alcove that had been in Hutchie's book. You know, and we made sure it was the one that they were all sitting in, and was sitting in the seats that Hutchie had sat in. Do you know what I mean? And soaking up the atmosphere, and you know, and it was basically that on that day. That's when we decided, let's go into partnership together. And I'd already commissioned the lead weights. I'd already been selling the lead weights round at Walthamstow Reservoirs, just out of a normal DCA mould that you could buy. I bought it actually at the Dunstable Carp Society conference. I bought for whatever it was, a 10-hour or whatever, a 2 ounce and a 3 ounce in the same mould, like a zip shape. And I'd already been selling them. I'd already commissioned my own bespoke range of moulds, which the first quote I got was 300 quid a mould, and I needed 6 of them. And the last quote I got was 30 quid a mould. So basically, I found someone in the East End of London, Air Tooling, it was called, EYRE, near Beckton. And basically, he got this, whatever, I can't remember his first name, Mr. Air. He got one of his staff who was an angler to make the moulds in his spare time with old lumps of aluminium that they didn't need for other moulds. And that's how I got it for that money. So that was all happening.
Was that profitable straight away then?
Yeah, it was, because there was no overheads. I was making them in my kitchen. There was no rent. It was a stainless steel dog bowl on a little double sort of gas burner that you take fishing with you. Like I did used to take fishing with me, actually.
And you were still at the bank while you were
still
doing
working at the bank, yeah. I was just basically making them out of my kitchen, stinking the whole flat out with lead fumes, several times a week. And then, like I say, I got the moulds commissioned. And when it got close to them being ready, said to Scott, look, mate, there's no way I can sell these into the shops and do the luggage at the same time. It's just not going to happen. I said, you'll have to carry on with the luggage, and then I'll get the leads into the shops. And if I can sell a lead that's 30, 40p into the shops and they sell well, then when we bring out luggage for 20, 30 quid, bearing in mind, we're 27 years ago or whatever,
right.
that was a fair bit of money back then, I'm sure the shops will take it, so it's a good in to start with a consumable. And I'll always remember he said, if it's 50-50, if it's not 50-50 all the way, I don't want to do it. I said, all right, fine. And he just walked away from it, and I carried on doing the leads. It was profitable to start off with because there's no overheads. They were costing me, I don't know, 5 or 6 pence a lead, and I was selling them for 40 pence a lead.
So just walking around lakes.
No, this was going to tackle shops. So basically, the turning point really was I went to what was, I don't know if it's still there now, Essex Angling in Elm Park, which was the closest tackle shop to where I lived, and Specialist Tackle, in Romford, which was where I used to get all my kit for my own fishing, and took the leads in that I'd made from the DCA moulds in 2s and 3s. And I remember, can't remember which of the two shops it was, but one of them ordered 50 of each, right, which was like a whole day's work to make 50 leads of each size. Bearing in mind you're pouring them both together, so it's only 50 pours. But I used to, rather than snipping the excess metal off, I filed every single one down. So I twisted them off of the gate, which is the bit of metal that you don't need, where the lead's poured in, twisted them off of that, and then filing them down with a file, every single one, so they're perfectly smooth. And it took me all day to make them, and I can't remember which shop it was, but one of the shops said to me, "We love them, and if you can make bigger ones and smaller ones, we would definitely sell them. And if you could make a decent pear lead, we would definitely sell that as well." And that's what basically inspired me to get my own moulds made, find a tool maker that would make them for the right money, and then basically I worked at NatWest and sold the leads for a year before I had enough money in the bank basically to pay my rent for 2 years. So if it fell flat on its arse, I had 2 years to find another job. That's what I did. And I was still in a bank flat, so it's a like subsidised flat, which I managed to keep.
So where was the point then? So the leads took off. You were selling a lot of leads. The shops were taking those. Where was the point between going from that to actually, right, we're going to move into a fishing tackle company now, and where you start employing people and you need your own premises, and then you've got all the overheads and.
I would say it was probably the first. After that first year, I started with my own moulds in '92. I left work in '93, and that's when I had a guy. Actually, there was a girl working at the same branch as me of NatWest in Loughton. And one of the girls there, her boyfriend was unemployed at the time, and they were making leads in their house. But it was just lead fumes everywhere, dust everywhere, just absolutely like just ruining their kitchen. And like all day long, he's just making leads. And
God, I bet they were relieved, weren't they?
Yeah. And I'd go around there in the evening and pick up the stuff that he'd made and then put it into stock, and then go around at the weekend to the tackle shops and be selling it. And that went on for like a year. So I suppose he was the first employee, if you like. And then after a year, I knew how seasonal it was. Bear in mind, all I've got is 12 products, 6 distance leads or 6 zip style leads and 6 pear leads. And I knew how seasonal it was. And the July of '93, I went to my manager in the branch and said, "I want to leave." And he said, "Okay, Daniel. Yes, if you give your notice, and and I went, no, you don't understand. I want to leave today, now." Right, that was not the way to do it in the bank at all. And he was like, "Oh, well, you'll have to go to head office," and so I'm like, "All right, fair enough." So I went up to head office in Brentwood, or regional office, whatever it was, and I had long hair at the time. And I'd already been up to see this personnel manager at a regional office about my long hair, and he was tactfully trying to say he'd like me to cut it, which I didn't do. So I went back to that same guy, and he said, "Danny, if I know that if I asked you to work your month's notice, I know that you would." And I went, "Oh, of course," knowing that I'd just say, "Bollocks to that, I'm going."
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going to let you go today. So boom, I was gone. That day I left the bank, never went back. And I used to bank at one of the branches that I used to work at when the business was in Harold Hill. I'd go in and all the cashiers would go, "Oh, you've done so well to get out. Oh, it's much worse now than it was," And it was nice to go back in there and have my own thing going. And
now it's working.
And that was when I started employing people. I had a little up and over garage door, just a tiny little unit up by Risebridge Golf Course, and it just grew from there. And I employed a couple of people at the start. Danny Turtle, as he's known.
Yeah.
He was sort of the first proper employee. Absolutely used to live in Essex angling. Just spent all day in there, just talking about fishing. And he absolutely loved the leads. He was hanging the 2-ounce pear leads. This is Turtle all over. is hanging the 2-ounce leads on his bobbins to make them as heavy as possible. He's like a man of extremes.
He is.
He can't. He doesn't do anything by halves. You know, if he's going to get a set of long range rods, they've got to be Ziplex beach casting rods. I remember he got a set that was so thick they wouldn't even fit on the top of his optonics because he had the ears coming off of his optonics like those light flow yellow ears he used to have.
That's it.
And he's bought these rods, got them done by Nick Buss, is it?
Nick Buss.
Yeah, got them done by Nick Buss, taken them over to the front lake of the Chase, put them on the rest, and they wouldn't even fit between the ears. So we had them sitting on top of the ears, and that's turtle all over.
I remember seeing his gear at, we went to Gigantica, I think it was like 2011.
Yeah.
And he was the bailiff there. I think he was on the last leg of his
stay
there.
His tenure.
His tenure there.
Yeah.
I remember seeing his rods actually, because he's a big guy, isn't he? I think he's probably and he is a caster, isn't he?
He is a caster, yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing his rods and thinking, crikey, is this the sort of gear we need at Gigantica?
No, just everything he's just got a, you know, if it's stiff, it's stiffer. Yeah. If it's light, it's lighter. You know, if it's long, it's longer. Do you know what I mean? It's just that's he loves all that. He just loves he loves all the extreme kit. You know, and it
hasn't changed.
No, he hasn't. No. I haven't seen him for a while, but you know, I just he, like I say, he was the first sort of full-time employee, it just very, very gradually grew from there.
But one thing I've noticed, so I've been here a year, I've known Damo for quite a few years, is the company is very people orientated, isn't it? I mean, they need skills, they need, you know, specific skills, but you've got to be the right character as well. And I think you've done a good job with making sure that you've got characters here. There's a lot of stories.
There is a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of stories. I mean, I haven't. I think you you know, you get on with a certain type of people. You connect with a certain type of person. It's, you know, I've got a very I think I've got a strong moral compass, and it's important to work with people that are aligned with that. And you know, we've had people that haven't fitted in over the years, you know, and we've made mistakes over the years with people, but generally, you know, the people that we've got that have you know, sort of lasted the distance have got that same mindset. They're all a little bit nuts as well, you know. I think that helps.
The Essex thing again, isn't
it? Well, it's not even that. I just think everyone's just a little bit crazy, and that's a good thing.
God, you know? I've heard about fireworks being thrown into containers and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, that might have been when I wasn't there. The fireworks getting thrown into containers. But
you've not heard that story?
I haven't heard that story.
All right,
no.
okay.
No.
People might be out of a job tomorrow. But
I can remember. At a shop social where we took a load of tackle shops fishing in. This was probably 10 years ago. Yeah, firing fireworks at each other across the lake. We've done some stupid things over the years, but you know, it is people orientated. You know, equality is one of my really strong values. Like, we're all the same. You know, if I'm in a car accident, your blood is going to save my life. You know, so why, if I've got more money in the bank than you, why does that make me a better person than you? It doesn't, right. You know, and that I felt that all my life, and it's always aggrieved me. You see a really tasty motor parked across 2 parking spaces in a car park, and I just want to key it because that bloke thinks he's better than everyone else because he's got a nice motor. And that's
I know someone that done that.
That's just really.
Yeah.
Well, I never did it. I'm what you call passive aggressive. I think about it, but I don't end up doing it. But I always think about the consequences. But that side of it's really important to me. That, you know, we all have our part to play, and I'd like to think that filters down and everybody's aware of that to some degree. You know, and it's, you know, like Dave who used to put the leads in the bags. You know, I mean, he's working sort of in production now. But when we made the leads ourselves and we coated them ourselves, Dave would bag them up. If Dave didn't put them leads in them bags, didn't matter what Ali did on telly, it all broke down. And that's not out of a book or saying it because it's the right thing to say. That is a fact. You know, if Dave doesn't do his bit in the whole machine, the rest of it breaks down,
right?
You know, so why shouldn't Dave be just as valuable as Ali? You know,
yeah.
And the level of responsibility is different, and the money they earn is different, and everything else. But everybody is an essential part of the whole thing, and
they're all valued. They're all valued. And some of these people have been here a long time, haven't they?
They have been here a long time, and I'd like to think we create a decent working environment. I wouldn't say it's not without its ripples, and if you got 100 staff here, you got 100 personalities, 100 egos, because we've all got a bit of an ego, and 100 people to keep happy and keep motivated, and that's just the English side of it. So you can't get that dead right all the time, but I like to think that we deal with it in a very humane way and a very respectful way, and you do your best to get past whatever challenges are put on you. But yeah, it's important to me that everybody is on a level here.
Right. So you employ 100. Is it 100 people now?
Sorry, just having a bit more tea. I think in the UK, I think if everybody was in together with all the sales team and everything in together, then it's about 100 now.
So as a consequence of that, the company, you can be open to criticism and stuff at times. How do you deal with social media? And I look at reviews and how people. Generally, the company is very well received, isn't it?
Yep.
But you're always going to get a minority.
Yep.
How do you handle that?
With mixed emotions, I would say.
Do you take it personally?
Yep. Yeah, I do. I take it less personally now than I used to, because I try and operate on a personal level and a business level with the strongest moral compass I possibly can. I could do whatever I wanted at Gigantica. It's my lake. I could fish with barbed hooks. I could fish with tiger nuts. I could fish with thinner line than everybody else. And what could anyone say? It's my lake. But I do not do that because it's got to be the same for everybody. And there's, I could, if I run Kev up at mainline and say, give me 10 ton of boilies, I'm going to dominate this lake, and no one else is going to get a bite. I could do it, and Kev would just give me that bait. And there's absolutely no way I would do that, because that's sort of, that's the way my mind works. So when I could take advantage of my situation, and I never do, when I come in for a load of stick, it stings. It does sting, because I think I operate on I'm not Mother Teresa, do you know what I mean? But I operate what I would consider to be at a very high level of integrity. So when you get absolutely slated for something that you have not done and you've not said or you've not acted that way, that does sting. And anyone says that it doesn't, can't, in my opinion, can't be human. We've all got feelings, and but I understand more and more now that a lot of the people that say those things are angry with everybody, not just with me.
They're angry in life.
They're angry with themselves.
Yeah.
And it can't be a very nice
kind
experience.
Of strange therapy for them to just be able to.
Yeah, well, they're deflecting, I think, their opinion of themselves onto other people.
Right.
And if no one's ever come up to me at a show and ever said, "You're a wanker," you did this, you did that, you're an arsehole. No one's ever done that, and if someone felt that strongly about it and I'd really wronged somebody, I'd want them to come up and tell me, or even written to me and said that, So it's a very easy thing to give somebody a dig on social media. It's faceless. There's always somebody there to sort of stoke the flames and agree with them, and my mate knows him, and but I have to say that like guys like Tom Dovey are very good at giving me perspective over that whole thing. And he's like, mate, if you were in a pub with that guy that's just written that, probably wouldn't give him the time of day, So does it really matter what he thinks, And he's got a point. And I'm less affected by it now, but I'm still affected. I still you read something on social, that we're trying to do a good thing about, say, the clothing that we're doing, that we're donating money to a children's cancer charity, and then you get people have a dig about that, and you think, do you know what I mean? How can you possibly find something negative and destructive to say about that, and that like gets my goat, you know. Or
but you just know that you're never going to educate those people.
No, you're probably not. I mean, something I thought about doing is getting a dozen of these people in a room and beating them to getting them in a room and saying, right, you lot, what do you really think? Tell me what you really think, and tell me how you form that opinion, you know, and you know, give them the opportunity to talk and explain my part of it, and see if you can turn a negative into a positive, you know. And because a lot of time it is just my mate said, my mate fished with him and he was this, or my mate met him at a show and he was this, or my mate said he's this, or you know, and a lot of it is my mate. They haven't formed an opinion themselves. Somebody's told them about it, or they've, you know, even I remember we do these shop socials, right, where we take tackle shops away for a glorified piss up. Basically, we all got rods out, you know, but that's what it is. And the very first one we did over at Linear. At the end of it, 2 shops came up to me and said, I've really got to apologise. And I'm like, well, mate, what, you ain't done nothing. What's the matter? And he said, I was part of the Danny bashing crew in the shop. He said, people would come in and moan about you and I'd join in and we'd all bash you for an hour. He said, I was completely and utterly wrong, and I'm really sorry that, you know, when I can't wait for them blokes to come in and me set them straight when they start slagging you off, because I've actually fished with you for 2 days and you're just a normal bloke like everybody else.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
when you're... This country loves an underdog, doesn't it? So when I was coming up, everybody wanted to help me. When it was just a pasting table at one of them shows that I very first bought the moulds at, when I went back to Dunstable, everyone wants to help you, and you're everyone's pal and everything else. As soon as you become successful, you're there to be shot down, aren't you?
Same.
You know, and it's very much part of this country's culture to do that. And you know, so I guess you can probably tell from this, I'm quite aware of the whole situation, and you know, the pitfalls of spending too much time on it, you know. But to read something really negative about yourself that's in complete contradiction of how you actually do operate does still sting.
Yeah, you just got to learn to ride that, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't look at now comments on YouTube. Don't look at them at all anymore.
Right.
Just don't. It's how many views did that film get?
Are you on social media?
Not as me. So I've got a pseudonym on.
There you go. You've got to find him.
Yeah, I've got a. You know, I watch, but I don't comment. I made the stupid mistake of commenting badly. You know, in a. You know, under an alias, and you know, I shouldn't have done it, and I stand by what I said, but it was totally the wrong. Arena to do it in, and since then I've never liked or commented on anything. I just look to see, you know, what our presence is like on social media, and what other people's presence is like, and loads of stuff outside of our industry. So I follow DJs, I follow club nights, I follow artists, I follow military things, you know, like people who do military clothing, because I think you can get some inspiration from that. Don't follow hundreds of people like a lot of people do, but you know, I do draw quite a bit of inspiration from that. And you know, I mean, some of the angling photography that is out there now is absolutely spellbinding, and that a great image of an amazing fish makes me want to go fishing. And I think that's a really great side to it. You know, I know it's got its pitfalls, but yeah, that's something
I've got to learn actually. But 2 things actually. Yeah. Social media. I've been on Instagram for 4 weeks. I've got 22 followers at the moment. And actually, I was speaking to a guy a couple of weeks ago about coming on this podcast.
Yep.
And he was asking me a few questions, and I sent him back a reply. And then I thought, crikey, that was a couple of weeks ago. He hasn't replied or to anything. I thought, crikey, he doesn't want to come on. That's really rude of him. And then I looked today at lunchtime and I hadn't pressed the send button on there. And that's very typical. Photography as well. I've got some of the worst fishing photographs you've ever seen. Yeah,
I bet you got some absolutely lovely carp,
especially
nice out of Save, and then the pictures are rubbish.
Yeah, I mean, some of them. Toby's probably got a few on there actually, which he's not going to put up for us.
I hope he does.
Am I not allowed to put any of your modelling pictures up?
No, you're not allowed to do that either, are you? Even modelling pictures.
I think that we should explain Tobe, because Toby's just like a voice, isn't he? So
yeah, shall we introduce Toby?
yeah, this is somebody we dragged in off the street from around the back of the bins at Tesco's.
That's it. Yeah.
Do you know what, that's a famous saying at Korda, to drag them off the street,
yeah,
homeless.
It is. Yeah.
He's doing a good job.
Tobe is our podcast expert, aren't you, Tobe?
Yeah, I'm just here to hopefully put it all together, but you guys are making it easy, so it's all good.
Good.
Excellent. No, he's doing a good job. I mean, Toby's been pretty integral to all of this. I'm not a technical person. I just like talking to people.
Yeah.
So Toby, we're a good team, Tobe, hopefully, aren't we?
Yeah, we're doing fine. I mean, I'm still half tempted to send you away on a nice IT course somewhere.
Yeah, don't bother with that.
Danny, I'm not sure if you're aware, but he still struggles to turn his MacBook on.
Really?
I just realised, for the last 3 months I haven't been logging out or anything. So we can get there, can't we?
You'll get there.
Yeah.
You'll get there.
Well,
Rome wasn't built in a day, mate,
no,
was
of course
it,
not. No. It might take longer than building Rome, actually. What I was going to say, what was the real turning point for Korda? Where did it go from being selling leads and small tackle items to really, I mean, what, the underwater or thinking tackle?
I mean, yeah, underwater was a pivotal moment, I think, for us. But I'd already been doing the instructional films. I did a couple with like I said earlier, with Frank Warwick, and I think the underwaters came next, and I think that probably sort of opened people up to us more than anything that we'd done before. But I remember actually when it first came out, and it came out on video to start off with. You know, it wasn't even on DVD. That's how long ago it was. And it was at the Sandown Carp Show, Carp Society Winter Conference, and we had quite a sizable stand then anyway. You know, we were probably 5 or 6 meters long by 4 meters deep. We had a big tower in the middle, big light box with Korda on it. It wasn't a little outfit at this point. You know, there was a reasonable sized product range. And I can remember good anglers, people like Martin Clark, like just stopping in their tracks and just watching this plasma screen that I'd taken off the wall in my front room and taken to the show, and that's what we used to use as my one, because we only used it a couple of days a year. And like watching this thing, like just absolutely glued to it, and then just come and actually spend money. A sponsored angler would spend money on a video because of the footage that was on it. So I think, that was. Where did you
get the idea for that from?
I didn't. It wasn't my idea at all.
Whose idea was it?
So a guy called John Bannister came to me. And he'd seen the state-of-the-art films that I did with Frank Warwick, and he basically said, "Look, I'm done snorkeling, I've done scuba diving, seen carp in their natural environment a lot, and seen your films, and I'd really like to do an underwater. I'd like you to do an underwater film, and try and get a bite in front of the camera, you know, in a real fishing situation." And obviously, I was intrigued by the idea. Knew nothing about it. And I said to him, "Look, mate, I'm running Korda. I haven't got the time to research all the crew and kit that is required for this kind of project. But if you can find the people to do it, I will finance it, and I'll present it, and I'll fish in it, like, you know." So
was that a big financial commitment at the time?
It was for the company at the time. It was tens of thousands of pounds, but tens of thousands of pounds was a lot of money to us as a company back then. And obviously we had no idea whether it was going to work or not. John set about finding people that could do the underwater or could produce the cameras and produce the rig that had a pan and tilt system on it. So if the rig didn't, I said rig twice there, but by rig I mean camera rig, that could basically move it around, so when the angler's rig hit the lake bed, if it didn't land in exactly the right spot, you could pan and tilt slightly to get it in the middle of the shot. So if you did get a take from it, everything was captured. And that was a very Heath Robinson system, very problematic. You know, we laid the cable from a boat, the sort of umbilical cord going back to the bank, which had the power and the signals for the two cameras, because we had a zoom camera and a wide angle camera. And the cable would drag along the bottom, and the cameras wouldn't pan and tilt properly, and then they'd stop working. We'd have to get it all out of the lake, and it was really problematic. But it worked, and we got we got what looks like now very grainy footage, but back in the day it was pretty groundbreaking.
It was.
It changed a lot of people's opinion, I think, on what happens underwater and how many times the rig goes in their mouth and out of their mouth with the bobbin not even moving, and how many times they get away with it completely just with a couple of bleeps, and how often they're on the spot and you don't even know they're on the spot, you know. Yeah, I mean, it revolutionised the way I thought about fishing, and I think it had a positive effect on a load of other people as well. So that was definitely...
How many copies? Do you know how many copies of that you actually sold?
I'm guessing Damien will know probably to the the exact number, but 10,000 maybe, which was a lot of videos.
A lot of carp
and
anglers
DVDs.
have watched that.
You know, I don't know. He's gone on YouTube now, so we put them on YouTube, and we put. I think we started off by putting 7 and 8, which are obviously the most professionally made because we knew so much more about it. And we catch some big fish from St John's on Linear, which is obviously a very well-known lake, and those have had 500, 600, 700,000 views now. You know, obviously it can be the same person watching it over and over. Excuse me, but it just shows how popular that medium is.
Yeah, it didn't come easy though, did it? I mean, I remember some of those shows. You were fishing. You were on the lake for a few weeks at a time filming.
Yeah, 7 and 8, we were there for a whole week before we got our first bite. Or
we had
bad weather, northerly winds, really cold. Fish weren't in that bay at all. They're out in the open water. And bearing in mind, you're feeding a spot. There's no line in the water because there's no point fishing until the fish are there. So we're not cast a rod in for the first week, you're just sitting there in a sort of drenched bivvy, covered in mud, just watching the screen with nothing on it, with just the bait laying there, day after day, just chewing up money like you wouldn't believe because all the camera crews.
I was going to say, when
there.
would you pull? I mean, could you potentially pull the plug on that?
You could pull the plug. I mean, we pulled the plug. We tried to do it at Gigantica and it didn't work. We had the cameras in the water for 3 weeks, didn't see a single carp in front of the camera in 3 weeks, and came home.
Well, they're just cautious of the cameras.
We put it in the wrong place.
Right.
We put it right next. There's a swim called the Tree Line, which was heavily tree lined, as the name would suggest. Really snaggy. Fish were in there all the time, but the bit they were in was about 6 foot deep, directly under the trees. And the closest bit you could cast to, with the swing back of the lead and everything, was at the bottom of the shelf, which was in 12 or 13 foot of water, which was only about 3 foot off the tip of the trees. You know, so we're skimming the trees with a rig because we're casting it rather than dropping it, because that was what you had to do on the lake. So we wanted to replicate that. So we're putting hero casting every single time, and it's dropping in front of the camera every single time. But you know, no matter what we put in front of the camera, it wasn't getting eaten in the day. It'd sit there all day. It'd go dark. Get up the next morning, all the bait's gone. You know, so you spoon some more bait out round the camera, so no splash whatsoever. Just Ali would go round, poke a baiting spoon out through the trees, tip it over, it'd all fall perfectly in front of the camera. Couldn't do it any better. Do you know what I mean? From a fishing point of view, nothing all day long, not a single fish in front of the camera. And then just as it get dark, you might see the back end of a tail, or the camera might wobble, and you might see a bream come in as it's just about getting dark, and that'd be it. Then the cameras would lose complete light. Bearing in mind it's almost dark at this point.
Do you feel, so they're weary of those cameras?
No, it's not. No, we put it in the wrong spot. It wasn't that they're wary of the camera.
They're quite comfortable with the cameras.
They become comfortable. I would say. I would say it depends on the lake and the fish, how densely stocked the lake is. But I think you'd look at. I mean, Wellington Country Park. I think the camera was in the water for about 3 or 4 days before we started filming, and we had I think we had a dummy camera in the water. And then with the pulse on it, and then we took that camera out and put the real camera in and connected it up to the cable. And literally they were there straight away then, because the camera had been there a week. The obstacle out in the water had been there pretty much a week already. And they'd had some food around it as well.
Do you think that when the fish are coming in, if you've got a bigger group of fish, they feel more comfortable in numbers coming in there?
Definitely. There's definitely safety in numbers. And familiarity. The more times it gets dark and then becomes light again, and that thing is still there, because it's just a snag to them. It ain't a camera, is it? It's just a snag.
Yeah.
You know. So I think any fish will
apart
become,
from the electrical impulse that's giving off.
Don't know what the field of emission is, if there's anything at all, or the sound or whatever. I don't know if that makes a difference, but even if that is happening, the fish become used to that eventually as well.
Right.
Otherwise, we wouldn't get any bites, would we?
Okay,
You know?
yeah. So you've done, is it 7? You've done eight films altogether.
Yeah.
So what's the one thing that you can take away from those? What's the biggest thing you've learned from the underwater films, rig-wise, bait application?
I think as a generalisation is to think underwater. So to think what your swim looks like from an underwater perspective, what the bars look like, what the silty spots look like, how deep the weed is, how are you going to construct what you're putting out there, and how are you going to feed to suit that situation. So thinking below the surface of the water rather than just being blissfully unaware of what's going on. I would say that was the thing that probably stuck in my mind. It actually worked against me to begin with, because I thought every fishing situation was the same as the one I've just done on the underwater films, and it wasn't. On 5 and 6 that we did at Welly, that fish Lumpy came in and sat on top of the rig, and the hook bait was in its mouth 3 or 4 times and it didn't get hooked because it didn't move. And that fish got caught the next week from that swim by a bloke casting a long hook link into the chod, short of the spot, caught that fish. And
the thing with the films as well is you can only pretty much film in gravel pits, can't you?
You can only film on hard bottoms, so you can't. Clay bottoms puff up too much. Gravel and sand, really. Firm silt just puffs up too much. So you just don't. Well, as soon as the fish start feeding, you can't see anything.
I was talking to Mike Kavanagh last week, and he was talking about fishing redmire.
Yeah.
And he would go out in a punt, put some bait out there, and he noticed that the fish were coming in, feeding on the bottom, puffing everything up off the bottom because it's very silty.
Yeah.
But his bottom bait wasn't getting touched. So in the end, he ended up putting a pop-up off the lead on, which kind of he thought simulated a bait off the bottom, because they were going into the bottom, feeding hard.
Yep.
The bait was coming up in the water, and then they were feeding not on the bottom. They were. Right.
Did he see him doing this, or was it that was his take on the situation?
He said he saw that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, what he was saying there was as well. Hopefully Mike's going to come on the show, so we can talk to him a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
But you can't. You have to adapt to hard bottoms, silty lakes. They feed completely differently.
Yeah,
at times.
I've always done that in my fishing. I've changed the rig and particularly the lead system to suit what the lead is landing on, and that's something I've sort of championed since the very word go. I don't profess to to have a massive understanding of how fish feed, and I've got loads of hours of watching the underwater unfold, and there's loads of stuff that you never get to see because you can't show it all. You're trying to condense the best bits down that tell you the most. So I've got a lot of experience in that respect, but I haven't got a lot of experience of watching fish in the edge feeding or anything like that. That's not a way that I generally fish. So so I can't profess to sort of have the sort of the visual experiences that have then been transferred into a fishing thing. I think what catches you the fish is the best way to learn. So what's going on out there and what it looks like and everything else can sometimes mislead you, actually, when you're doing the underwater films. It's what gets the bite is the most important thing, and what that thing looks like doesn't matter as long as it gets you the bite, So it can be a really long hook link and a tiny little hook, or it can be a 2-inch hook link and a massive great hook, or whatever. But it's what gets you the bite on that particular lake, on that spot, on that day, with that feed. That's the thing that works. So
that's what I noticed with very good anglers as well, that it's experience and it's being able to lock that experience away up there. So they've got all these different combinations, different conditions. Talking to Tom yesterday about feeding and fishing in Holland. Yeah. And he went to this really, really deep lake. We need to be fishing zig rigs 11 foot off the bottom. because
No, 11 foot down from the surface.
11 foot down from the
Yeah, 'cause
surface.
I've had this conversation
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, and for a lake under 20 foot, what was it? 4 foot below the surface.
Yeah, I mean, Tom's done loads of zig fishing.
Yeah.
He did a load of stuff at the Manor, I think, back in the day when the adjustables first sort of got used. And yeah, I mean, I that is one of my major failings, is that I'm not a zig angler at all, and I avoid it. It's a tactic of last resort for me, and that is a failing, 100%. You know, youngsters coming into the sport nowadays, sometimes it's their first line of attack, and I don't think that's particularly a good angling practice either. But having, you know, being the Toms that can fish on the bottom and zig fish and floater fish and stalk and fish at range, you know, that's the mark of a truly exceptional angler. And I know that my stubbornness limits my ability to unlock the code, as we say, from every single lake. You know, I'm an old boy now. I'm 50 next year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It takes me a little bit longer to adopt new things, and you know, it's like people of my generation. We've sort of grown up using bait, and we want to catch them the way we want to catch them. You know, that's part of it for going fishing. I don't want to fish in a way that I don't like. Don't want to fish, you know, don't feel confident in. That's not enjoyable, you know, and that is a failing of mine. If I was fishing in a competition, I would have to adopt the winning tactics. And when me and Damien fished in the competitions, we did do that, and we did really well using tactics that we wouldn't normally use in our fishing. But when it comes to actually my own personal fishing, I want to catch them on my terms.
Yeah.
You know, and that cost me fish, 100%. That cost me fish, but I'm happy.
It's all about being happy, Danny.
It is, yeah, it is.
Just moving on to Embryo and Gigantica. Did you have any experience with fishery management or anything before you purchased Gigantica? And where did Embryo come into this as well?
Right. Short answer to your first question is no. I thought I did, just by being a carp angler, but I didn't. And that was a very steep learning curve for me and Turtle. You know, he did the hard bit. He was out there doing the graft for the first 5 years of Gigantica's history. As Gigantica, obviously, it was Domain St Christophe before then, so it was a fishery before. But we turned it completely around on its head. Stopped people baiting up with a boat. Stopped people putting rigs out with a boat. They could still bait up with a boat, and cut the number of anglers down, or cut the number of rods down from 104 rods to 20. No, it was 12. No, we had 10 swims, 3 rods each, so it was 30 rods. Yeah, so 104 rods down to 30 rods, I think it went. You know, they were just people. The old owner was just packing people in, didn't charge a lot of money. But every swim was a double. Everyone had 4 rods. Everyone had marker poles here, there, and everywhere. It was just absolute carnage. I remember a guy called Nick Upton, who famous angler from Walthamstow Reservoirs. I saw him at one of the shows, and he went, "Oh, you bought the sack lake, hadn't you?" And I was like, "Sack lake? What are you talking about, sack lake?" I thought you meant sacking the fish up. He went, "No, we called it the sack lake because everyone put a sack of pellets out. Everyone, every single day. That's what happened, like, you know." And he said, I think he caught a couple that week, which was good going. Yeah, I mean, the fish absolutely ramped the weight on in that year. I think he sold something crazy like 3 or 4 or 5 ton of pellets that year, the owner. But the catch weights went down to next to nothing because there's so much available food out there. And we thought all the fish had been nicked. And I even got a phone call from my mate Matthew, who now works for Korda Europe. And he said, I hear rumours that on the Belgium sort of grapevine that all the fish have been stolen from St Christophe. You need to pay some attention. And what it was, no one was catching anything. So they're saying, all the fish are being stolen. They've all been sold to a lake down the road. So my mate Co, bless him, who Co's Point is now named after, I rang him up and said, he's like my Dutch brother. I've known him for years and years and years. Met him at a canal in Holland and just became friends. And he's just the loveliest, gentlest man you could ever hope to meet. You know, he really is like my Dutch brother. I said, Co, like, could you caretake the lake while the sale's going through? Because it takes months for these things to go through. And he agreed to do it for nothing. Drove his car like his old space wagon, whatever they were, drove it down and parked it across the gate. Bearing in mind, we didn't own the lake, so the old owner's still there coming and going. He's parked it across the gate every night, so no one could take anything off of sight, and basically policed the lake and started bailiffing it, basically. Stopped people rowing rigs out too far and everyone being in each other's swims. And the catch report just went absolutely through the roof. I remember I was speaking to a guy who worked in a tackle shop in Ashford in Kent, and he'd fished the lake that April, and there was a little bit connected to the lake that we've now turned into a stock pond, but it was about 2 or 3 foot deep, gin clear water. And they said, oh yeah, we on our last morning, the Saturday morning, there was a really big fish in distress in that bit of the lake. It had sort of waddled its way in there, and the owner asked to borrow one of our landing nets to scoop it out. And they said, we think it was the big one, 70-pounder. And the owner has basically scooped it out with their landing net, laid it on a mat in the back of his van, and just driven off of it, driven out of the complex with it, with their net. So they've had to stay there until he's come back with the net. He's come back with the net, no fish. Right, so they said, oh, what's happened? What's happened? He said, oh, he had another lake down the road called Little Christoph. And he said, oh, I've given it oxygen. It's down at the other lake. That fish, it was in distress with its spawn ban. It was obviously died. So I've had this phone call from a guy months after we've bought the lake, and months after we'd agreed a price. We hadn't actually bought it at this point, and I'm thinking the only 70-pounder we knew was in there is gone. I got a phone call from Co. I got a text from him about half hour later. I was fishing at Elstow at the time. Text come through from Co. 72.5 £. So I've rung him straight away. I'm like, Co, what? Mate, what's going on? And he's like, yeah, I've just weighed one, 72.5 £. And I said, mate, the 70-pounder's dead. It didn't go back in. And it turned out to be the fish we called the giant.
Oh yeah.
That ended up making £90. So that was some of the roller coasters that go with owning your own fishery. You know, from the depths of despair, like our only real big one is gone, and an hour later on the very same day, you find out there's another one that's done £70. Yeah. So that's one of the big tips I can give anyone who's looking to get their own fishery. If a lake has got pedigree, if it's done big fish before, it will do big fish again. If you get the right strain of fish and you manage it well, it will recover, you know. That was testament to that.
So you had the stock ponds at Gigantica. So did that lead on to Embryo? Did that have anything to do with creating that?
No, I wouldn't. It obviously helped us because we'd been breeding our own fish at Gigantica, but no, Embryo was completely in response to the threat from otter predation and how many places I was hearing were getting wiped out, you know. And by wiped out, I mean the target fish getting taken by otters, you know. So if there's a 40 and a couple of 30s in a club lake, all of them gone, and the club lake virtually being disbanded, you know, or the club being disbanded as a result. And that was scaring the crap out of me, to be honest. And not from a, you know, everyone will say, oh, he's protecting it so that you can earn more money, and there's loads of that goes on, you know. And it was nothing to do with that. It was, what are kids going to fish for? You know, when I was 15 and whatever, I was absolutely mad keen cycling the whole summer holidays to a little lake called Moores Lane and fishing there for the whole summer holidays, literally every single day. What are kids who are 15 in 20 years' time going to cycle to and fish? What if it keeps going like this? There's going to be less and less and less places, and those guys in my position, what are they going to do? You know, and that's what I wanted to protect. You know, and of course, you know, it has a knock-on effect. You know, it maintains angling for all of the companies in angling. You know, but we're a, you know, angling without Embryo, carp angling would still survive and thrive in this country. It's not the saviour of anything, you know, because it could never be big enough to have the impact of all the other lakes put together, you know. But it's one positive thing in a load of other positive things, you know. But you know, I was just concerned, you know, about things, you know, going backwards. And actually, the more we've done it, the longer Embryo's gone on, the more we've realised how proactive loads of other people are without any help from Embryo. You know, they're fencing their own lakes. You know, they're taking that side of it really seriously.
You think people have been influenced by Embryo?
I would hope so.
Just following.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I don't know if that many people know that much about it. You know, obviously there's a lot of chatter, as there always is, on the bank mainly, and on social media and stuff about what are the reasons behind it, and Dan's trying to take over the world and all this sort of thing. There's as much negative, I think, as there is positive. And I don't know I think the people that we have helped, and by helped I mean putting fences up for them at the absolute lowest price possible, you know, half what the market rate would be. They obviously know, you know, what we're all about, and they're very thankful, and I think their syndicate members are thankful, or club members of the clubs that we've done, and the few lakes that we fence for nothing, obviously they're fully aware, and the people that are members of our venues are reasonably aware. Even them, I don't think, are completely aware of why we're doing it and how much we have done in a short space of time. The public at large, I don't know. We do an embryo calendar every year to raise money to fence lakes that can't afford it. We sell 3,000, I think, calendars a year. You know, if you think there's got to be a couple of 100,000 carp anglers in this country, 3,000's a pitiful number compared to the number of anglers. You know, we should sell 100,000 calendars, really, if people knew what we were doing with the money and really cared about carp angling. But you know, everyone thinks it's not going to happen to their lake, you know, and it doesn't really concern them, and you know, they're not aware that every single penny that comes from it gets spent on fencing, not for an embryo lake, for a club lake that can't afford to fence it themselves, you know. Yeah, people are complacent, and you know, so I don't really know what the awareness is of embryo out in the wider world. Obviously, this will help. The stuff I've done with Jamie Klossick on his carp cast, I think helps. You know, our social media helps, but that's going out only to people that follow Korda and follow Embryo. So you're sort of preaching to the converted. Whether the public at large know, I don't know.
How many lakes is it now you've got?
I honestly don't know. I think there's about a dozen to 15 syndicates up and running with memberships on, and we've got probably 6 or 8 more coming online in the next 12 months, plus the day ticket lakes. So we've got 6 lakes up at Norton Disney near Lincoln, which we're opening 2 of those in on Saturday the 14th of September. A normal day ticket, you know, just pay for 24 hours and fish. Plus a couple of other day tickets that we've bought, or we're going to turn them into day tickets, but haven't stocked them yet because we just haven't had enough fish available.
You purchasing fish from different breeders?
Yeah. So we basically, we've got our own fish farm in Essex that we rent off of a guy called Paul Middleton, or we sort of, he was renting it and producing fish from it, buying the fish from the Priory fish farm, which are an amazing strain, and he didn't want to carry on doing that. We took that over from him, so sort of maintain the status quo with his landlord, the farmer.
Those Priories are nice ones.
Yeah, they're absolutely banging fish. Just
have you got some pictures, Tobe?
The shapes.
Yeah, I can find something for you.
If you went onto the Embryo site and then went on to Broome, I can't remember it. It's Broome Blue Lake, I think it's under. They are the Priories that we stocked a little over a year ago, 18 months ago now. We stocked them at, I think the biggest ones were £15, the smallest ones, I think.
What year were they?
What the year class? Yeah. So £15 as a C5s,
yeah.
5 summers old.
Yeah. There you go. There's a few on there for you.
Right. So if you click, if you go on to,
what's the one that
no, they're not
James
Priories,
Turner's
mate.
holding.
If you go on to venues, and then go on, just scroll through those syndicate venues. Sorry, if you click on syndicate venues,
I was just having a look through here now,
and go on to Broome. If you go under, there'll be thumbnails. Broome Blue Lake, and then scroll down through that and go on to the fish. There we go. So most of those are Priories. That middle one, I've caught that one.
Yeah.
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 Caught that one in the winter unnamed 4. That's grown. I caught that at 19 pounds in January. So that has grown. But the one below that, the common, that's an original, was already in there. But the others are all priories.
The tail on that one.
Yeah.
They're big frame, aren't they?
Big shoulders.
Yeah.
You know, thick wrist of the tail, sparsely scaled, sort of breeze blocky sort of shape. They're growers.
Yeah, I fished for a few of those.
Yeah, they're growers.
Yeah.
So that's one strain that we buy. We buy off of Viv and Simon Scott, VS Fisheries.
How have those ones done? We've had a bit of experience with those since November.
I hear that they've absolutely whacked it on, haven't they? At Savay?
They have. They were going in around mid doubles. That was in November. Now they're about, the biggest is it's put on £6.
Yeah, so that's awesome. I mean, I've found VS's do really well when especially when there's a good natural food supply. We buy the Mark Simmons fish, Heather Fisheries, the old Simmos that everyone.
He's responsible for some big fish,
everyone
isn't he?
slags off, and
they
totally unfounded nowadays. His bloodline has changed completely now, and I think his fish are spectacular now.
Those Chertsey fish, weren't they? Did he put some of those Chertsey?
Don't know.
Right.
Don't know.
Right. Wasn't there a fish back in November that they thought was near the record, or went over the record? Was that a rumour in the end?
Don't know. Do you know what? I'm really not plugged into the grapevine.
Right.
I'm really. I'm not a target fish sort of a person. Now I just fish the lakes that I get a buzz from. I want to catch the fish that are there. Of course, I want to catch the big ones. But I mean, we're going off on a bit of a tangent now, but I suppose that's the beauty of podcasts, isn't it? But I had years ago, I was very goal orientated. So one of my goals back in the day when I fished at Mercer's Park was to catch 1030s in a year. And I remember that my last session before Christmas, I caught a 29 pound 15 ounce mirror in December, and I was gutted, absolutely gutted. Someone had caught a 30 on my rods while I was off my rods going to pick up a Chinese from the front gate. I was absolutely livid with that. That was in the height of summer, so that would have meant I would have pushed over the 1030 thing. So I ended up with 9 for the year. And after that year, I swore I would never have a target in my fishing again. I would just enjoy what was the lakes that I joined and enjoy the fishing and enjoy what came along. But I wouldn't fish for targets because I at the time I was becoming obsessed with it, and it was not a pleasurable experience, So so I'm not, because I'm not target driven with the size of fish. I'm not really in the grapevine when it comes to what's been caught from where. I'm not chasing the next 50 pounder or 60 pounder. I'm not caught a UK 50. I've caught plenty of 40s, but I've caught them because they were in lakes that I wanted to fish, not because I joined to catch that fish. So yeah, I don't know if is that supposed to be a Mark Simmons fish then that's got to got to 60.
I don't want to be totally quoted on that. I'm sure there was a Mark Simmons fish that was around that sort of weight. Yeah, right. It's
Wasn't Mark himself banding a load of stuff about that?
I don't know if Mark's going to listen to this. Maybe he might be
able
to
to it.
Yeah,
he'd be a great guest. Yeah, he would be a great guest.
He would.
He is that man has got some stories to tell, and he's produced thousands and thousands of fish that have given people a lot of pleasure.
Absolutely. I know on Carp Feed he was quoted in there how many 50 pounders. So many big fish now.
Yeah. I mean, they were always quoted as live fast, die young, weren't they? Do you know what I mean? The Simmos. But I don't know whether that's true or not. I haven't got a clue. But certainly what he's producing now, the shape and scaling of the fish and the growth rates. I mean, his fish definitely seem to be tuned into anglers' food sources very quickly. I don't know if they're the quickest of all of the fish farmed fish, but certainly they get on the grub really quick, and they get caught quickly. Some of Simon's fish go missing for a while and then come out at a much bigger weight, and it almost seems like they've been harnessing a natural food source and have eventually, sort of moved onto anglers' baits. But we know from Gigantica that there's a percentage of fish that doesn't matter how long they're in a lake, they're either uber cute with rigs, or they just do not eat anglers' baits, and they just don't get caught. And often, when they get caught for the first time, it's on a zig. You know, bit of black foam up in the water. You know, imitating something making its way to the surface, and that's the first time they ever get caught. And it's funny, once they've been caught like that, they tend to get caught off the bottom after that. I don't know why that is, and it doesn't work in every case, but there's a fish in there called the Stranger that got caught for the first time ever at £40, I think. I think it was £40, maybe it's 30. No, it was £40. It got caught in a zig at £40. How has that fish got to £40 in that lake with 12 anglers, 3 rods each? That's what we have now. You know, for 10 of 12 months a year, and that fish has got to £40, having probably been born in the lake, and has never been caught. Because we keep such accurate records, we would know if that fish had been caught at £25. You know,
they can grow pretty big just living on naturals as well, can't they?
Mate, they can, and I suspect fish like that probably are eating anglers' baits as well. But there's something that they do that means that they just get away with it and get away with it and get away with it. You know, and yeah, we've seen that on the underwater films, like especially on Welly. Each individual fish seemed to have its own unique way of not getting caught. So some of them would only open their mouth a couple of mil and just sieve in the dust. That's all they'd eat. You ain't catching that fish even on a 10 mil boilie, you know. Others wouldn't move, like Lumpy wouldn't move, suck everything in, don't matter what it was, and he wouldn't move, so the hook link wouldn't tighten, blow it all back out again and not get caught. You know, others just shake their head, you know, so they'd suck it in, shake their head, get rid of it, bolt off out the spot, you know. They all seem to have their own way,
they did,
you know, of getting away with it. And I'm sure at Gigantica there are loads of fish like that have got their own unique way of not getting caught.
It's not necessarily that they're super smart either, is it? They're just designed that way. They just
they're not super smart, are they?
No,
they're not.
They're
not.
juggernauts.
They're masters of they're masters of their environment, and we are not masters of their environment. That's the difference, isn't it? They live there, you know. So you know, and they can feel a lot. I wouldn't say they can feel everything, but you know, they're very aware of what's going on and if they've been fished for a lot. And I think they're adept at getting rid of that horrible sharp object in their mouth that we want to spike them with. You know.
Yeah, that's right. Just getting onto something a little bit more personal.
Yeah.
2016. Were
Brunettes.
you on? Sorry.
Oh no, I thought you were going to ask me what my preference was. Brunettes.
All right, okay. Do you want to
Redheads
answer that
as well?
Redheads?
Yeah, redheads. I've got a bit of a penchant.
Oh, really?
But,
Is the wife listening to this?
Probably.
Does she know this
She's
reference?
sort of a redhead. She's about halfway between the two, actually.
Oh, is she?
She's a brunette. Yeah, brunette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you were on holiday with your wife and family, and
Yes.
you got. It was around that period where you were diagnosed with cancer.
Yes.
Skin cancer.
Yes.
That was a pretty. That brought you back down to earth, I bet.
Yeah, it's horrific. Anyone that's been diagnosed with anything that sounds terminal, will know that feeling of just utter despair, and I'm going to die. I'm not going to see my little girl grow up, you know. And I was on holiday in Miami when I got the news, and they didn't want to tell me, and I knew it was because they said, you know, we need you to come in as soon as possible when you get home. You know there's something wrong. You know, because they cut a little mole off the back of my arm.
What was it, Dan? Was it an obvious mole? I mean, were you concerned about that?
I wasn't concerned about it, but my wife was, bless her. You know, it sounds like a cliche, but she pretty much saved my life by pushing me to have it looked at. And it was a little mole, the colour of this table, that sort of mahogany, sort of dark mahogany sort of colour, a few mil across, maybe 5 mil across, just on the back of my arm, and you can actually see it in the masterclass, which one is it? The Lake Exclusive Masterclass at Gigantica. You can see it on the back of my right arm, little tiny innocuous looking brown mole, and it had obviously appeared relatively over a relatively short period of time, and Mrs. noticed it, said I think you should get it looked at. She's got loads of moles. She's got one of these conditions where she just her skin produces more moles. So there's nothing wrong with any of them, but she's hyper aware, you know, because she's got loads of moles, you know, and she's freckly and everything. She kept pushing me to have it looked at, and then eventually I did go to the doctors, and they sent me to the Lewisham Dermatology Clinic, and they said, look, they inspected it, you know, with a like a magnifying glass, if you like, almost like what you look at. You used
So,
to look
so
at
had it grown
slides.
quickly over that period of time?
I didn't really notice. One thing I did notice, I was making the masterclass in Germany, the spring masterclass, that same year in the spring, and I looked back at footage. Because obviously, when you're diagnosed with like skin cancer, you're then hyper vigilant, and you're looking back and to see if there's any pictures of when was it there, when was it not there. And in the filming in Germany in the April, May of that year, I couldn't see it on the back of my arm. So it was it had appeared quite quickly. It seems. It might be that the filming didn't show my arm in enough detail for me to see it. But the dermatology department said, look, we're not sure, but we like to just take it off anyway, just to be certain. That's what they say. No, local anaesthetic. We'll just cut it off, send it off to be analysed, and we'll get back to you with the results. Between Christmas and New Year, I had it removed. Local anaesthetic, you don't really feel a lot. It's a bit weird. You can feel them. You can feel something happening there. You can feel them sewing you back up, which is a bit weird. And I'm not a fan of needles, and I tend to sweat a lot. I used to have to have a lot of blood tests when I was making the leads, because I was so paranoid about lead poisoning. And I used to hate it. The nurses used to laugh at me because my trousers would just be soaked with sweat just through having one bit of blood taken. So having a local anaesthetic, which is not pleasant, because they're putting the needle in sort of 10 times around the area before they start doing what they're going to do. I was absolutely sweating buckets in that, I remember. But went away on holiday, had a holiday booked in January, went away on holiday, knowing the results were probably going to come back when I was away. And like I say, got the phone call while I was away. It was obvious something was wrong. And the doctor, Dr. Ross from the Lewisham Dermatology, bless her, sort of knew I could handle it. She could tell from having met me before and talking to me on the phone. She said, it is melanoma. We want to do a second operation to take more skin away around the original mole, just to check if there'd been any spread of the melanoma. And we also want to take some glands under your armpit called lymph nodes out, again, to test them, because that's the first place it will travel to if it's travelled elsewhere in your body. So at this point, you don't know if it has travelled elsewhere in your body. Me being the sort of negative thinker about my self and my health, I would say I'm a very positive thinker when it comes to the business, but when it comes to me, I'm not. I certainly wasn't at the time as emotionally strong as I am with the business. Nothing could rock me with a business. I could go through anything, but myself, I definitely wasn't the same. And it really hit me hard. And I just looking at my daughter, thinking, I'm not going to see you grow up, and just obviously in floods of tears, really withdrawn. And I was working with a food psychologist at the time to try and lose weight. I have a better sort of freedom around food, because I'd overeaten all my adult life, and sometimes I'd trained it off and got back into better condition, and other times I hadn't, and that was when I was too heavy, I worked with this guy, rang this guy and said what news I'd had, and worked with him, and he was absolutely brilliant, basically it helped me to get through the holiday and still enjoy the holiday, not knowing what the future would bring. James Lamper, his name is. He runs a company called Weight Matters up in London. And one of the really great bits of advice he gave me, he said, look, if you're going to be down about it, if you're going to be upset, set yourself an hour a day to be as upset as you want. Set it between 5 and 6, and say between 5 and 6 you're going to go off back to your room and you're going to bawl your eyes out for an hour, and you're going to take charge of that situation, and you're going to do that, and then get it out of your system, and the rest of the day, try and have just have a normal holiday, and things like that really helped, because it enabled me to take some control of the situation rather than to be at the mercy of this diagnosis. James was absolutely brilliant, and
Is he
you
your life coach? You use a coach, don't you?
I used I started to go there to have a better relationship with food and to not overeat and to not eat for comfort, not eat for reward, and that it definitely helped with that. But it sort of evolved into more of a life coach, because your personality affects everything in your life, doesn't it? And all your interactions with people, and it sort of, for me, it highlighted a load of behaviours that weren't how I wanted them to be, weren't productive. And yeah, I would say he for a time, I haven't spoken to him for quite a while now, but for a time, he became a bit of a life coach for me. And when you're running a business of any size, it is lonely at the top. Even Damien, my right-hand man, there are certain things I can't talk to Damien about because he's not in that exact same position as me. And I would say Damien and I are closer than we've ever been now. And we discuss a lot, on a business and personal level. And we've got great respect for each other in that, in that sense. But it is lonely at the top. I've got mates who run. Well, a mate of mine, Chris, runs his own pro shop on a golf course, and he's running his own business. It's a completely different business, but we can chat to each other on a level that really helps. An
impartial kind of level.
And having a coach allows you to do that as well, and they can then you're inviting them to highlight ways that are not helpful that you're acting in or behaving in, and give you some coaching on how to make it helpful. So, and I've been on a pretty much a journey of sort of self-development and self-improvement all my adult life. I've always felt this is what I am now is not all that I can be. I want to be a better person. I started doing them when I was in my late 20s. I did a very sort of provocative and confrontational course called the Landmark Forum, and it went from one end of that course to the other. Did all the advanced course and the one beyond that, and kept on doing things because I just wasn't prepared to accept that this is me. I'm limited by this. I always want to do more. So I've always been very open to that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, no, I think a lot of us can. I'd like some life coaching at times, Dan. I think just you need someone from a different perspective to look at yourself as well and be able to see things that you don't necessarily always see, and you can be quite busy and wrapped up in your own. But that sort of thing brings it home.
Yeah, I mean, I've done another one recently, another sort of psychological training course recently, which is probably the most effective one I've ever done, and it's the least confrontational, the least painful, because in most, if you say you're a trained therapist, so you've
psychotherapy, hypnotherapy,
right. So I guess you've had plenty of patience over the years, so you've seen how confronting and how upsetting it can be to face the difficult times that you've had in your life and become aware of how that's impacting you and everything else. What I've done recently is like a psychological training course called Thrive, which is just a book that you read basically, and there's sort of questionnaires that you fill out during the book to determine how in control of your life you feel and how much you feel it's in the control of other people or other circumstances, what your self-esteem is like, what your social anxiety is like, and sort of understanding all of them things, and then once you've understood them, being able to rewrite those beliefs in your own head in order to improve your self-esteem and improve your social anxiety and everything, and that's been massively beneficial to me. I'm sure I'll carry on doing other things as well, because I
just keep moving.
My peak will be the day I drop dead,
right?
Or the 10 minutes before I drop dead. Certainly emotionally, and that's what I like to think. You never stop learning, and the same with your fishing. I think every time I do Carp Academy, I learn something from one of the lads, that's thinking about stuff a different way, or from one of the other tutors or whatever, and the day you become a closed book is sort of, I don't want there to be a pinnacle of my life, really, It's
just a shame that not everybody can see that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but you know, we're
I
all,
mean,
we're
we
all
don't always
responsible.
yeah.
Yeah, we're all responsible for our own emotions, our own perception of the world. You know, our own thoughts and feelings. We create all of those things.
Yeah.
No one's doing it to us. And yes, it is a shame that perhaps people aren't more open-minded and more able to
You know what?
be a bit more self-effacing and realise, you know, whether their behaviour is helpful or unhelpful, or you know, offensive to other people or non-offensive or whatever, you know. But you know,
Just
it
looking
takes
to
all
optimize
sorts.
yourself. It's important, you know, to try and optimize. Then you're keeping in touch with yourself when you're trying to optimize yourself and push yourself along more.
Yeah, you're definitely yourself, or my self-awareness has evolved a lot, and I always find anything I do like that, to begin with, it highlights all the things that you would like to change about yourself, and that gets me very down at the start. Like, I'm like, oh, you know, I struggle with confrontation, and I don't like saying when I'm not happy with something, and this, and I build all these things up together, and you know, and it can, you know, I can overwhelm myself with all of these I should be better things, you know, and then by the end of it all, you're sort of you're aware of all of those things, and you're able to have more control over your thoughts and emotions and everything, so that you can get past them things. So it's, you know, they're never without a little bit of sort of some uncomfortable feelings and some confrontation, but I think it's all worth it. I really do.
Yeah, me too. Dan, we're running out of time now.
Really?
We're 1 hour 40.
Oh my God.
It goes fast.
That has gone really quick.
I actually think
really
that's a good
quick.
way to end the podcast as
Okay.
well. That's been great.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll
All
do
right.
this again sometime.
We will do it again very soon. I've got loads of stuff. You've touched on loads of other bits. Embryo, Gigantica. There's loads of, you know, we've not even looked at contributing to other people's fishing, you know, and that's a big part of my life, is that contributing to other people. I love doing that. So, you know, if we can come back and do it again and again with other subjects, then I'd love to do it.
We will do. Danny Fairbrass, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. That goes fast.
It does go fast, mate. Really
You talk
fast.
well.
Yeah?
Yeah. That 140.